everyone, Mike Burke here with InsideRealEstatePhotography.com, and I'm here with my man Nick from Motion City Media, and we have the DJI Mini 3 Pro here, and we're going to test it out. All right guys, so we have the Mavic 3 here and also the Mini 3 Pro. So this isn't gonna be like a super technical review where I'm gonna go into like specs and every little, function that, the Mini 3 has versus the Mavic 3 or anything like that. We're just gonna fly both these drones around. We're here at the beach. There's a bunch of beachfront homes here behind us. So we're just gonna take some photos and a few video clips of one or two of the houses maybe, and then take them back to the computer, just compare the two of them just to see how they stack up against each other. Obviously, this is like basically a third of the cost of this, so it's a big difference in price. Not even having flown this yet. I mean, Nick has flown it. They've been flying this recently, and what's your experience been with it?
It's really lightweight, so whenever it's a windy day, it'll definitely pick up in the wind a good bit. The image quality is definitely phenomenal for both photo and video, so if you're looking to get into flying drones without really spending the money on like a DJI Mavic 3, it's definitely a good option.
Yeah, so I haven't even flown this myself yet, but what I've seen coming out of it, like on the internet and stuff, it's definitely, I think, the way to go if you're just getting into drone photography and video. This will definitely be adequate, I think, for most real estate applications. I think it might struggle a little bit at nighttime, or if you're doing like a twilight shoot in lower light situations with the smaller sensor size. Obviously this has a bigger sensor, so it's gonna handle low light better, less noise, all that sort of thing. And it is breezy here today, so we'll see how this handles the wind. It's unbelievably light. This is the first time I've ever even held it. Compared to this, it's crazy how small and tiny and light this is. Like, it is wild. So we'll see how it blows around in the wind, because there's definitely enough wind here today to blow it around. So we'll see how it handles that. So yeah, without further ado, we're just gonna get these guys up in the air, take a few shots of some houses, and then later we'll compare them and just see how they compare to each other. All right, so first we're gonna fly the Mini 3 Pro. Nick here has the upgraded controller with the screen in it. I would definitely recommend this. I have the RC Pro for the Mavic 3 and I love that. So this is sort of just like its baby brother, I guess. Feels pretty similar. It's much lighter and it's a little smaller, but it's a really nice controller. Unfortunately, I can't screen record. I can on mine. I think mine has internal memory. This one doesn't. The RC Pro will work with this as well, but that's a $1,200 controller, which is more than this drone and controller combined. So I don't know if it's even worth getting for this. I mean, this would totally be fine. I mean, this is a great controller. It's very similar anyway. So anyway, I can't screen record it, but it's okay. I'll show you the clips and photos as we go. But I will be able to screen record with the Mavic 3, so we'll get a little bit of footage from that. We're just gonna shoot this house back here. I think that's it's a very nice house right on the beach. So I'll get a few shots of that and I'll land, and we'll do the same thing with the Mavic 3. So we have, we're comparing more or less apples to apples. Video, I'm gonna record, this records 4K 30. The Mavic 3 goes up to 5K, 5.1K, but I will record in 4K 30 on that as well. So it's, the same settings. And other than that, we're gonna shoot bracketed photos. So yeah, here we go. I'm gonna take off and get these shots. Oh. It's crazy. Yeah, it definitely bounces around.
Yeah, look at that.
All right, so we just brought the Mini 3 back in. Just something I noticed, a couple things I noticed from flying the Mavic 3 every single day. I'm very, very familiar with that. So flying this in comparison, Just a couple things I noticed, like it's breezy, like we said. It's definitely not as, I guess it's just not as powerful. So it doesn't move as fast in normal mode as that does. And also it struggles a little bit more with the wind. So the wind is definitely more of a factor for this than that. I mean, I think that's probably a no-brainer for most people. You would expect that, I guess. You know, it's a more powerful drone, bigger props, you know, the whole thing. So heavier too. So, I mean, that would help. You know, this was bouncing around in the wind a lot. I mean, as we saw it coming in here, like, but the footage and everything looks smooth. So I guess, you know, the gimbal is really doing a good job of keeping the footage steady and everything. So there's no real issue with that. But, you know, the actual body of this and the physical motion of it is affected by the wind, not really the footage per se. So, but yeah, I mean, it was fun to fly it. It did a great job, you know, I mean, everything looked pretty good. So we'll see, you know, on the computer soon, you know, how this looks compared to that. But now we're gonna take the Mavic 3 up and I'll try to get basically the same shots this time as I did with this, if I can remember what I did, but I only did a few shots, so it shouldn't be hard. But I'll get the same shots and we can kind of compare them side by side. All right, so that was flying the Mavic 3. A couple things I didn't mention before. When I was flying the Mini over the ocean on that really high shot, it did cut out as far as communicating with the remote controller once or twice, very briefly, but it wasn't even that far away. So, you know, that's another thing to consider, you know, between, you know, one of the higher end ones and that. You know, obviously you're gonna get better connection with this over that, or, you know, some of the other models maybe. But I don't think it's really an issue that's going to impede, you know, you doing real estate work. It might be an annoyance sometimes in certain scenarios. Like if you're behind a building or something, it might cut out, you know, much easier than this will, or at least easier, I don't know. But, you know, that's something to consider. Also, this has the mechanical shutter in it, so I can change aperture, which that's a huge plus for me. That's why I really like these higher end ones. I know, is it worth the extra money? Maybe not. I mean, but I really like the ability to be able to change the aperture and control my exposure more, and that's like one of the big advantages of this too. So, you know, obviously this is 3 times the cost, so you're gonna get more with it. So, I mean, that only makes sense, but you know, these are just things to think about. But I think that is a really good drone, and I'm sure the images and video are gonna look great. So in the long run, that's really all that matters. So we'll take a look at those on the computer now and see how they stack up. All right guys, so I have the photos and video clips loaded up here on the computer, so now we can compare them side by side and see how they stack up against each other. I'm really curious myself to see how this went, so let's dive right in. All right guys, so I have Lightroom open here with all the photos loaded into it. These are brackets, 5 brackets, so each one of these rows is actually 1 photo. I didn't really need to shoot brackets for this video, but that's what I'm used to shooting for real estate, so that's what I did anyway. So we can just take the first frame from each of these brackets and compare those. These are completely unedited, raw photos. And so these first 3 rows are the Mini 3 Pro, and then these second 3 rows here are the Mavic 3. So I'm just gonna take the first frame here of this shot from the Mini 3 Pro and the first frame here of this shot from the Mavic 3, and we'll compare these two side by side. So on the left is the Mini 3 Pro and on the right is the Mavic 3. So off the bat, what I'm noticing here, If you see in the corner here, there's some vignetting going on, so some darkening in the corners a little bit, especially in this top right corner. With the Mini 3 Pro, there was no evidence of vignetting going on with the Mavic 3 here. Other big thing I'm noticing here right off the bat is some major chromatic aberration on the roof here. You can see it's purple versus the Mavic 3 where it's just white, regular highlights. So chromatic aberration is an indication usually of like cheaper glass or more inexpensive lenses tend to have chromatic aberration issues because there's not a lot of expensive, optics going on inside the lens, so that's probably what's going on here. The Mini 3 Pro is a, more inexpensive drone with less expensive optics, so it's not a surprise that it's going to produce some chromatic aberration. It's not a huge deal with photos. Most of the time you can basically eliminate it completely, and vignetting too is something you can fix fairly easily in post-production as well. So also another thing you'll notice if we zoom in here is that you can see this chunky like sort of banding and pixelation going on here with the Mini 3 Pro. That's very weird. Not sure what's going on there. As you can see, the Mavic 3's image is actually slightly softer than the Mini 3 Pro, and that might have something to do with this as well. A lot of times DJI will they're kind of known for it too, like baking in like sharpening and like saturation and stuff. So that might be going on here. Like with the Mini 3, they might be like baking in sharpness into the image, which is bringing out this banding and pixelation going on here in the corner. I don't know if that's the reason, but it could have something to do with it. Maybe the Mavic 3 has less of that baked in, that's why it's a little softer looking, and that's easy to fix too. You're just adding sharpening. I always add sharpening to my images at the end after editing them, so that'll fix any slight softness that might be going on here with the Mavic 3. That's just part of my process anyway, but that's something there to take into consideration. You can see it all through the sky here, some like weird sort of pixelation and banding going on. But yeah, so that's the first image, but overall, it's still, a good image. There's some drawbacks here. You can address most of them, I think. Let's go move on to the second image here now. All right, so I'm gonna grab this first frame here of the second image of the Mini 3 Pro, and then, the first frame here of the Mavic 3 Pro, and we'll just compare these side by side. All right, so again, you can see the dark corners here, some vignetting going on with the Mini 3 Pro on the left versus on the right here, the Mavic 3. Other than that, now the drone's facing away from the sun, we're not getting any chromatic aberrations. Chromatic aberrations occur next to really bright highlights like you saw on the roof in the last image. So that those bright white highlights, you'll get the purple fringing, and that's what chromatic aberration is. So, there's no super bright highlights in this image because we're facing the other direction now. So that kind of addressed that issue, but so no chromatic aberration here, but vignetting again. But other than that, there's some slight chromatic aberration on here, on the roof here, that little white here compared to the Mavic 3 over here. But yeah, that's really not noticeable. So yeah, I mean, more or less, that's it, for that. Other than that, I mean, they're pretty close looking here. I mean, it's impressive, the little drone, how it stacks up. I mean, really, it's impressive little drone. Let's take a look at the next image. So this is this higher up image over the ocean, the third image here from the Mini 3, and then this third image here from the Mavic 3. Let's compare these two. So again, same things, vignetting. You got, here on the highlights coming off the ocean, a lot of purple, fringing here, chromatic aberration going on with the Mini 3 Pro, versus the Mavic 3. You could see some slight purple in here, but not nearly as much. Zooming into the house here, we can see another problem here going on, which they call moire. On these intricate patterns, like you got the roof here, it's got very intricate lines sort of on it. You'll see it in like brick buildings and stuff like that, or if you're shooting a person, like if they're wearing like pinstripes or very intricate patterns on their shirt or something, you might see what they call a moire effect, which as you can see on the roof here with the Mini 3, you got this almost like cross artifacts going on here, this orange and blue, like X's almost. You can see it on the Mavic 3 here too, but it's not nearly as pronounced as it is with the Mini 3. All right, that's it for the images. Let's hop over to Premiere and we'll take a look at the video clips now. So what I did here is that I just took a video clip, the same video clip from the Mini 3 and then the Mavic 3, I play them, sequentially, and then finally I'll play the same two clips split screen side by side so you can see how they, compare to each other. So this is the first clip here. Let's take a look at this. So I'll play these full screen for you, obviously on YouTube, so you can see, hopefully these the best way possible. But here's the first clip starting now. So this is the Mini 3 Pro. Again, you can notice the chromatic aberration on the roof right off the bat. And here with the Mavic 3, much less going on there as far as chromatic aberration, pretty much none. You do notice the moire effect. It's evident in both images, but definitely the chromatic aberration. And with the video clips, it's not an easy thing to get rid of necessarily. I don't know how you can get rid of it with the video clips. Honestly, I've never tried. With photos, you can deal with it. I don't know if there's a way. I'm not going to speak and say there isn't a way, but I'm not aware of any way to get rid of chromatic aberration in a video clip. Here's the second clip that we did here. So let's start this. Here's the Mini 3 Pro. This looks fantastic. Shooting the other direction, not into the sun. Colors look great. The vignetting seems to be less apparent on the video clips than it did in the photos, but I think it's still there a little bit. Definitely in that upper right corner, especially for some reason. But yeah, both of those clips look pretty darn close to each other. Here they are side by side. Slightly different looking image, but slightly different colors even in the sky and stuff. But and the beach, I don't know, slightly different, but finally, let's take a look at this final clip here, this high up clip over the ocean. So here with the Mini 3 Pro, obviously you got the chromatic aberration here, again, on the highlights on the water. Here's the Mavic 3, much less of the chromatic aberration, but other than that, pretty similar looking overall. Again, some slight color differentiation going on here. Every camera and system is going to produce colors, reproduce colors in their own way, so it's going to be slight variations there. All right, guys, so those were the photos and video clips side by side comparison. So what do you guys think about this? I'm definitely very curious on your opinion, so please leave a comment down below. So again, with this review, I just wanted to take the most inexpensive Mavic, the Mini 3 Pro. I'm not sure if they use the Mavic name for it anymore, but it used to be a Mavic Mini. I don't know. It's part of the Mavic lineup as far as I'm concerned. And just compare it to the most expensive Mavic, the Mavic 3, and see how they stack up against each other. I would be remiss though if I did not mention in this review the Mavic Air 2S, which is a fantastic drone, fantastic image quality. It's got the 1-inch sensor. It's going to be an upgrade in image quality from the Mini 3 Pro, I think, in my opinion, even though I didn't have one to compare here. But anyway, that's definitely a great middle ground drone. It's priced in the middle in between these two. So if you're looking to spend a little bit more than the Mini 3 Pro, and not as much as the Mavic 3, but you're looking to get somewhere in between, that is the perfect in-between drone. Lots of great options here. I just wanted to mention that as well. So I know this review focused mainly on image quality, because for me, at the end of the day, image quality is paramount. It's the most important thing. But again, I want to mention there are other things to consider when buying a drone, which is functionality and all that kind of stuff. So again, with the Mavic 3, you're getting much more functionality. You get the change apertures, like I mentioned in this video, more control over your image, more menu options. So if that stuff's really not that important to you, maybe, it's not worth the extra money to you. Also, again, when I was flying the Mini 3 Pro, it wasn't that far away and I was losing connection with it. So, you're gonna get much better connection with the Mavic 3. Not that that's an issue, these are all things that, aren't gonna impede you from doing real estate work with the Mini 3 Pro, but, maybe some slight annoyances here and things to consider. Obviously, again, the Mavic 3 is more powerful. I don't know if you noticed in that high up shot over the ocean, the Mavic 3 was just moving a lot more easy. I know from flying it, like I was, I had the thing pinned for the Mini 3 Pro to do that pan shot over the ocean, and it was barely moving, whereas the Mavic 3, was cutting through the wind pretty well and much less of a struggle there. So, all these things come into play. I just wanted to mention all those things as well, because there are a factor in buying a drone. So, you know, you're just gonna get more convenience, easier, maybe more enjoyable user experience when you spend more money, of course. But, you know, so I'm just bringing that up as part of this review. One other thing I quickly want to mention about the Mavic 3 too is that it has a second camera, the telephoto camera, which really comes in handy more so for video than photos. But I just wanted to mention it. In the beginning when they launched the Mavic 3, I talked a lot of smack about it in my first impressions video of the Mavic 3. I thought it was kind of useless. But now that they released firmware for it and fixed it up, it's actually really cool. I use it for my videos all the time now. I always try to work in at least one shot with it because I think it helps separate my videos from other competitors' drone videos in my market, and it's such a cool, interesting shot. Like, it produces such a parallax effect. It's really cool if you get a foreground element in there when you're doing it, and just the movement in it. It's just a unique looking shot. So, you know, that's something I wanted to mention as well. That's another advantage that the Mavic 3 has. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. If you're interested in buying one of these drones, I'll put links down in the description below. If you buy using one of my links, I get a small commission. Helps me with the channel, and I really appreciate your support. If you liked this video and found it interesting, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I really appreciate your support. Also, take a look down in the description below. I have links to a sky replacement pack that I've created, Photoshop actions, Lightroom presets. I have a link down there to my Patreon page, which gives you access to my private Discord group with this great group of real estate photographers in there, helping each other out. Also, you can message me there directly and consult with me on your own work if you have any questions about anything. Also down there is linked to gear recommendations I have. So a lot of good stuff down in the description. Take a look at that. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again soon on the next one.